Well, hey, everybody. Oh, it's old Pops back. Listen, we got to talk football. We got to talk some football. We're going to go over the NCAA rankings here, right? Top 25 rankings real quick. And then we're going to look at a couple of games that are going to be important this weekend. But I think the most important weekend is going to be next weekend because I don't think anybody except maybe Oregon has this thing completely wrapped up right now. I mean, Oregon, in my opinion, is the only one that has it wrapped up completely as they're going to be in this top 12 playoff. But like I said, that's a personal opinion. Now, we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know how it's going to go. And that's why I say that. Because you got this weekend here, and then you got the rivalry weekend next weekend. So, yeah, that's the fun stuff, right? And that's where it all boils down to figure out where everything's going. But I think there's some teams I'm rooting for to get in personally. But Oregon at number 1, 2 Ohio State, 3 Texas, 4 Penn State, and 5 Indiana. None of those have changed. They're all the same from last week. But some of those teams do have some losses. So, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, all with 1 loss. Indiana's still 10-0. So they could definitely be into this thing too. But if anybody takes a loss with those other 3, they could be out of it, you know. Same with 6 through 10, which is Notre Dame, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, right? All of them with 2 losses except Notre Dame, who has 1 loss. You know, if they fall over this next 2 weeks, it could put them out. And then, of course, you got Miami, 9-1, Boise State, 9-1, SMU, 9-1, BYU, 9-1, and then A&M at 8-2, Texas A&M. So BYU dropped 7 spots this week. Tennessee dropped 4. So that's, yeah, I mean, they can't fall any further and still be in this thing is what I'm saying, you know, in my opinion. Then you got Colorado at 8-2. You got Clemson at 8-2. Army at 9-0. Now, I don't know why Army's not higher. They fell to this week. I don't understand that. South Carolina and Tulane 19-20. Up 4 and 5 respectively, you know. And then Arizona State, Iowa State, UNLV, Illinois, and Washington State. Now, Washington State's down 6. Everybody else is still the same in that. So they've got to push further up in order to be in on this thing, anything, chance of it, right? A lot of these teams do. I would say from right? From 15-1, they can't lose another game. Or from 15-2, rather, right? They can't lose another game because they could fall out of this thing. And then from 16-25, they've got to win out essentially to get into this thing, except for maybe Army, who's still at 9-0. So, yeah. It's going to be interesting. Shoot. Okay, and then the top 25 games this week, right? You got some smaller ones, you got some bigger ones. But I think a couple that are really going to matter are right here. Indiana and Ohio State, 2 and 5. Somebody's going to lose. Somebody's going to go down. You know? Now, how far down, that's another story. See, that's the big question, right? And then you got right, like this one here, Texas and Kentucky. Kentucky's already surprised somebody this year. They've already surprised a few by their play. So, Texas can't lose there either. Army Notre Dame 6-18. If Army beats Notre Dame, it's going to drop Notre Dame down, bring Army up. So yeah, you got some interesting games this weekend that could tell a lot, right? Alabama, Oklahoma. If Bama loses to Oklahoma, they're going to be out. A&M, Auburn, same thing. Yeah, so it's going to be some wild stuff. Now let's look at the Thanksgiving games. Right? Thanksgiving Day, you got Tulane and Memphis. That ought to be a decent game. That should be a lot of fun. And then that Friday, you start the rivalries, right? Oklahoma State, Colorado, Oregon State, Boise State, Georgia Tech, Georgia. Now, that's another one that could be big in this thing, too. Georgia Tech, because if Georgia Tech takes out Georgia, same thing with Mississippi State, Ole Miss. And then we'll go from there. But, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch and see what's happening. But I think this next 2 weeks is going to be the telltale story, especially this weekend right here that we're talking about, like with, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Georgia, right? You got some other rivalry games in there. Kansas State, Iowa State, Auburn, Alabama. Purdue, Indiana. Who else we got in there? Texas A&M, Texas. There's another one, huge. That could be a big one. Syracuse, Miami could be a big one. Oregon, Washington. All this could be telltale signs of what's to come. So, we're going to have to see on that one. And then, of course, we got the NFL. I don't think that anything's settled here yet either. But I do think, and I do believe this, I do believe that the Detroit Lions, have pretty much sewed up their chance at the playoffs, right? And if they play out this next probably 2 to 3 weeks and win out in those couple weeks, there's no doubt in my mind they're going to have a home field advantage, top spot in the playoffs, And I think the Vikings could be the same way. And probably the Chiefs. And that's the only ones I would say are definitely in right now. As of right now. Eagles, I would say yes, but they've got the Rams coming up. And then who plays on Thanksgiving Day? I know it's, we know the Lions are playing. They always do. Giants, Cowboys, Dolphins, Packers. So that could be some interesting games too. But let's look at a couple of these. Steelers and Browns. Yeah, I mean, I don't think either one of them are really just plugging to get in at this point. That could change, of course. We still got 8 games left. 7 games left. Titans, Texans. I think both of them could have shots to get in. So that could be an interesting one to see. Chiefs, Panthers, Lions, and Colts. Lions, I definitely picked the Lions to win that one by probably 14. Broncos, Raiders. 49ers, Packers, that could be an interesting one too. 49ers really need to stay in this thing by winning that. Patriots, Dolphins, yeah. Cardinals, Seahawks. Cardinals, I think, could be in this thing too. They need to beat the Seahawks. And then the Eagles and Rams. That could be a really interesting game too. Sunday Night Football. So, yeah. I think over this next 2 weeks, we're going to tell a lot about not only the NCAA playoffs, But I think we're going to see a lot more coming out about the NFL playoffs, too, and who's going to be seated where. And I think that'll come over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm interested to find out. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Y'all tell me what you think. What your thought is on everything, because right now that's where I'm sitting. I think the Lions are in already. They're just not going to, they're not going to say it yet. But I think the way they're playing, I don't think anybody can take them out, in my opinion, unless they lose the last 7 games. And I don't see that happening with the way they're playing right now. So, yeah. Y'all tell me what you think. Hey, listen, everybody. I hope you have a great week. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic Thanksgiving with the family. I will not be here next week, right? I will have some stuff on the other channels, but it'll be recorded ahead of time because I've got a couple of doctor's appointments next week, and we have Thanksgiving next week, so I won't be here on this channel next week. But we will be back the week after, and we'll talk about it, see if anybody's, set in stone to be in. All right? I'll see y'all then. This is Old Pops. Y'all have a great one. We are out.